Welcome to the Pure Perspective Podcast, a podcast for families who want to go beyond symptom-based conversations and understand how the nervous system influences sleep, behavior, development, and long-term health. We're here to break things down in a way that is clear, practical, and encouraging, so you can support your child from the inside out.
Hi guys, it's the docs at Pure Chiropractic. We are here for the 7th episode of the Pure Perspective podcast. Say that fast. We didn't mention it last week, but we're trying out a new setup. So hopefully this looks as cozy as we are, because
But you'll only know if you're watching us on Spotify or if you follow us on YouTube.
You should go check it out.
Or you don't have to. You can just listen to us. You don't have to look at us. But
you should.
So this week we are talking about the scans that we do in our office. So we have the Insight technology. Wow. And so we're going to take a dive into what that looks like for each child and each practice member in our office. So we use them on kids as well as on adults. And it's a great resource to show us how the body is functioning. And so one of the things that we wish every practitioner would do of any sort was these scans. And so I think it gives you a good idea of how the brain and body are connecting, whether you're a grown-up or you're a 3 or 4-year-old or even a baby. We're just looking to see where we have those roadblocks or those areas of interference that might be hindering our body's ability to work as well as it should. So
Yep. No, it's funny because we were talking about it in reference to, like, why is it not more standard to look at kids' nervous systems or just people in general? And so I took Elliot, my son, for an appointment the other day, and they did the height and they did the weight and they did all of this stuff, the eyes, they did all of these routine tests, and nothing wrong with it. That's their process and their protocol. But I'm sitting here going, gosh, if only we were looking at the thing that runs all the other things, how much more productive could we be in the totality of healthcare if we dove a little bit deeper than just that superficial stuff with those evaluations. So that is ultimately what we want to talk about today. So Dr. Anna, talk about our scans, fill them in, let them know, what are we doing? Why do we do it? And what is different about it compared to all the other testing that someone might go through for their child?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of tests out there that look kind of more symptom based, like we talked about last episode, the GI tests and like ADHD tests. And it's just to kind of get a diagnosis for things, which is just kind of what the symptoms are presenting as. Whereas our scans are looking at the neurology and where the interference directly is in relation to what they are experiencing. So our scans there's 6 parts to them. The first one, it comes with, or it's called heart rate variability. So that scan looks at how efficient your nervous system is going about its day. So it looks at how well you adapt to stress and how well the nervous system replenishes energy. And it kind of plots you whether you're more in that sympathetic or parasympathetic deficient state. And then the opposite, it can show if sympathetics are not turning on and we are very exhausted. The next scan shows us where it's called rolling thermography. It shows us where we have that interference and where that nervous system and dysfunction is really tied into. So it just gives us an idea of like where to look whenever we are adjusting, or kind of just what to take into account whenever we are talking with the patient and going over scans. That third part, I did say 6, but it's like 2
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah, no,
it's 6 pictures.
6 pictures, but 3 scans. But the last one is static electromyography scan. And so that one really looks at how much energy the nervous system is using to kind of talk to the muscles, and where we are seeing that tension within the nervous system that can hold on to a lot of stress and
or show pure exhaustion.
Yeah.
And you see how good Dr. Anna's nervous system functions, because that's incredible recall to have caught herself. Because if you know anything about her, you know she loves to be on camera and she loves to be recorded. And this is her favorite thing.
Now.
So for her to be able to have that level of recall shows me her nervous system's got great control this morning. It's good stuff.
Putting her on the spot.
No, but each of those is unique, and our depth of knowledge on those, we literally, as we discuss them as a team, we try and review every scan that we do in the office. It's not always the case, but at least 2 of us get eyes on every single scan. It is really, really cool to see the patterns and how nervous systems change along with symptomatology changing for kids. I think my favorite one, I have a favorite one, is part of the rolling thermography scan, and it's their DTG assessment. And for me, I'm a guy, so it's just that, like, I want a roadmap. Just tell me where to go in the direction. And that's what I love about DTG is it shows us if there is exhaustion or fatigue in the neurology, and it gives us a pretty good idea of where we should be looking to find it because different regions of the nervous system are sympathetic to parasympathetic. So when we're trying to create balance, sometimes we need to kind of focus on a region or an area to activate its response to kind of balance the system back out as a whole. So that's always been my favorite one.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with traditional medicine is that they're certainly looking to slap a label on things. And so, if that means taking your child's symptoms and saying, oh, yep, they've got ADHD, they check this box and this box and this
Mm,
box. And a lot of parents don't sit well with that. Like, they don't like that their child's being labeled as something or as a condition or a disease or a concern. And so, I think the scans give us the opportunity to show them I know that traditional medicine said this about your child, but here's where we can help them. Here's where we can take the roadblocks or those areas of interference that are influencing their body's ability to heal and adapt and process its environment around them, and be able to navigate that in a more efficient manner so that the child can function well and sit through class or do this activity or not be constipated or not have ear infections. And so it is very much the approaches are significantly different. So, like symptom based patch care, trying to mask the symptom. And yes, medicine has a reason and a purpose to some degree, but it also gets maybe overused in that where they don't get to the root cause as well as they should. And so instead of correcting at the root cause, they're just masking the symptom with another medication, Adderall, Ritalin, whatever they are that they're giving these children. When our scans show us, hey, these are the areas of interference. If we adjust to clear out the interference, your child will function better.
mhm.
It's we say it, I think, every single episode. It is that simple. It's complex, but it is that simple.
Well, the
We adjust
neurology is
and they heal.
complex,
Yeah.
but how it works is not
Yeah.
complex. It's just a system that needs balance. There was an analogy I heard like early in my career, and I'm like, it still resonates with me all the time. And it's like, there's always this inherent battle between medicine and chiropractic, or medicine and natural health, and we have a respect for the role that they have and the job that they do. If we liken them to like the fire department, if your house is on fire, you don't call the carpenter, you call the fire department to put out the fire. But at the same token, you don't then expect the fireman to rebuild the house for you. That's where the carpenter comes in. And our
Correct.
job is to build you a really, really strong foundation to work off of so that hopefully you never run into a situation where the house is on fire in the first place. That's ultimately what we're trying to chase down and be preventative and proactive. And it's not intentional, I guess, but we kind of find ourselves functioning in a lot of people's families as their kids' primary care physician. We see them more frequently. We know a ton about them.
Yeah.
We have that deeper knowledge of their nervous system and how it's functioning. So we naturally kind of fill that space where parents are bringing us questions that we never really expected to be answering or educating ourselves on. And not that we're trying to be an expert in pediatric care, but the parents trust us to give them good advice because they know the other alternative is their child is taking a medication that causes a side effect that takes another medication, and they don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
I think parents are being more educated now than ever before that they won't continue to just do the same things that we've done for generation after generation because it's clearly not working.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. I will say just kind of a different track, I guess. Um, One thing with scans is whenever especially we're doing it with kids, is there are kind of 3 different categories in which those scans can read as present like, with what the kids are presenting with. So, there's the raging bull, the drunken bull, and then there's a combination of both. And so with scans regarding the raging bull kid, that's where we see the ADHD and the high intensity and can't focus at school or, these really big, like, behavioral outbursts. Their scans are showing that they're in that sympathetic dominant state. Their rolling thermography is showing a lot of that inflammation and, dysfunction in their nervous system. The SEMG is showing a lot of that high tone, high tension areas, where as the drunken bull is kind of the opposite of that. That's where their nervous system is very exhausted. Its rolling thermography is likely showing a lot more just, like, upper cervical stuff going on. SEMG is very low tone, so we're seeing just, again, a lot of that exhaustion. And then as kids get older and they get into those stuck patterns, and then their nervous system gets really confused just because it's trying to manage what it's already dealing with, and then it's also growing into more milestones that they're missing and things like that. And so that's where we see a combination of both of those present in the older kids, and that's where I think parents get really frustrated because they have all of these symptoms, but they're not checking the boxes
Yeah.
of like, this
Traditional
is what it
medicine.
is.
Yeah.
And so that's what the scans will just really help with, and kind of helping to navigate what is best for them if they need, the more tonal adjustments, or if they need something to wake up their nervous system because it's so exhausted and like off the charts. And so that's what I think is the best reason for those scans, especially with kids that
Well, I think
do
that
it.
pattern of like the alternating one, that's the one that's, I don't want to say scares me, but that's the one I'm most concerned about because they're already exhausted in order to get to that. Then you have that pattern, which is essentially just one side of the nervous system compensating for the other and back and forth and back and forth. And in our office, we always tell our patients that if we say compensation, we mean nervous system work. So now you've got this heavy pattern of compensation going on. How are you supposed to break that? You show me any medication that can legitimately break that pattern and I'll sign up for it. But it doesn't exist. It's all artificially going to manipulate their nervous system into being a less than dampened down version of itself.
One of the biggest things that I really like on the static electromyography scan is the organization. And so at the bottom of the EMG scan, it talks about the percent and organization. And we have so many kids that the organization is essentially, I think it's the pattern number actually, is what it shows up on the scan, but it's indicating how well the brain sends those signals and that the body can then use the signals and organize that information to where it needs to go and to do whatever function it needs to do. I would argue that we have and that scan doesn't get done until they're about 3 years old. Below that age, it's not as helpful
Just
for
not as
us.
reliable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we do it once they turn 3 and beyond, and it it tells us just how well their brain is able to take the information and send it where it needs to go and organize the information that's coming to the brain from the body. And the number of times we have them at a 20%, which is the lowest you can hit,
Mhm.
is sad. Like, it's
Well, with the goal
so
being, yes,
upsetting.
70 or
Yeah,
80%,
they're
20%
so
is
far
just
away.
horrible.
Yeah.
So
Horrible.
far away. And that's where, like, the expectation of this child to have to sit through school all day long and participate in things or be attentive for more than, 2 or 3 minutes, they can't do it.
Mm.
They can't do it. And that's where I think there's just a piece in all of our hearts where we're looking at it and the parent is so frustrated because they're like, this should be easy for them. Like, it's blocks and it's colors and it's not hard stuff. Why are they struggling? And then when you explain to them, their brain is either getting so many areas of input and they don't know what to do with that number of messages coming in, or they can't send a message and it go directly to where it needs to go because of the interference. And so they're either overwhelmed by the amount of noise that's happening and the amount of activity that's happening in their brain, or they simply just can't get it to do what it was supposed to do, and so the message is getting skewed, or it's not getting there to the region that it needs to as well as it should. And so I think, a lot of those parents, like, I mean, just for a lot of our, more, I don't wanna say difficult, but more complex cases, parents come in and they're just saying, "I feel like my child's like a zombie." Like, they don't even know what to do with this kiddo that's supposed to be so full of energy and so happy and so all of these things, and they're either way, way, way less, involved, like I think we talked about, Mac, who didn't want to have
Mhm.
any sort of
Mhm.
interaction with kids or anything. And dad was funny. He was actually talking to me at the office this past week and he was like, tell Mac's story to everyone. Like, just shout it from the rooftops because the kiddo, oh, I've got
They're
goosebumps
the
all over.
best.
He's like,
Mhm.
the kiddo that we see today is exceptionally different than the kid that started with you guys. And he has more energy and he's not that low tone, unable to focus, unable to like stay on a task. He's, about to be 5. So it's not like we're expecting him to sit down and write an essay, but like he can actually sit down and play and focus and do all those things. And his EMG scans in the beginning, he was in the most exhausted state that we, can see sometimes. And so just to see him get that energy back is really exciting. And so,
Well, and like you
it's,
said, the kids who they literally can't do it.
yeah,
They can't do that
yeah,
work. And yet they go to school and we're not saying anything against the school. My wife works in in special education, in that side of schooling. And it's not for lack of trying. They have to try and work with these kids, but the kids are being given an unfair set of cards to play with. And so they're being forced to do something that they can't do.
Yeah.
And then the attempt to try and do it is only further taxing their nervous system into a place where it just keeps falling further and further behind. And that's where you end up with a child like Mac, where it's like they just kind of have gone into a corner because it's essentially their nervous system's safe space.
Yeah, no one knows what else to do.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
one knows how else to help them. So
Especially in like the world we live in with TikTok and the TV shows that's surrounding kids and all of that input, and their nervous system is
overwhelmed.
literally just
Yeah.
freaking out because it doesn't know how to organize that. And so that's kind of where our job comes in, where we allow their nervous system to become more balanced so they can intake some of that um, information and know better what to do with it and not get so overwhelmed or not get so
Just
stressed
shut
out to
down.
where they just
Yeah.
shut down, or it's the opposite and they freak out or run out of the classroom or something. So
Yeah, I
think
kind
that's
of,
a big
it's, we always are telling the parents, like, you don't know for sure what's going on with your child, but you know that it's not what you want it to
Yeah.
be. And so we talk a lot about just like the parental gut, like those, when you feel like it's wrong, it's because it probably is. And it probably is already deeply rooted in the neurology to get to that place. So the sooner the better to do that assessment and find out. And we're the first ones to tell you, if we don't think we can help, we won't waste our time. We won't waste yours if we don't think we can be productive. But we have literally, I don't think we've come across a child who doesn't need some
Yeah.
support with their nervous system. And there's varying levels of that, but everyone can benefit from a nervous system that functions at a higher level. And so it's always been a priority for us. So anything else to add, you two?
I just think being proactive about it. By the time a parent sees their child in a state like Mac was, right? 3.5, almost 4 years old, and dad's calling us saying, hey, he's nothing like other kids that our friends have, or his brother, like he's different. There's something different. And not that they don't love him, not that it's not, they would have accepted Mac the way he was, but they knew he had potential to function well. And by the time you get to that spot, it's like you said, deep rooted, and we need to get to those kids as soon as possible. So, if you're listening to this and it sounds like your child, or you're listening to this and you've listened to previous episodes and you know that they're not eating, sleeping, or pooping well, start now, because it only prevents you from getting into the thick of it in months or years to come. And so that's like our call to action, because I mean, we want the place flooded with as many kids as we can help in our area and in the surrounding areas. So,
Yeah, I was say, if you're
yeah.
listening somewhere outside of the Metro Detroit area, you can still contact us.
Yeah.
We will find someone that can
Yeah.
run an insight assessment on your child. We will find somebody who can take care of your child the way that we would. We will use our resources to make that connection for you. But don't let your kids suffer when they don't have to. There is options, and it goes beyond just medicating your child and turning them into a lesser version of themselves. So you guys have an amazing rest of the day. Get those kids scanned, get them the help they need. Let's make sure we got all nervous systems function the way that they're supposed to. Everybody have an awesome day.
Bye.
Bye.